Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how to download and install and use a command line program in Windows. This isn't just for beginners. It may be that you've been using Windows for a long time, but just never had occasion to run a command line program. But I can tell you that it's kind of revelatory when you learn that you can operate your computer using the terminal or the command line. Imagine that you want to rename 10,000 files to have an ever increasing number at the end of the file name. It's kind of hard to do by using your mouse and the Windows File Explorer, but it's trivial to do from the command prompt. Let's say you want to convert a folder of 20,000 videos from one video format to another. You can do that by just typing a simple command and hitting enter. That's really hard to do otherwise. So it really is kind of a superpower to be able to do that stuff. And this will get you started on that path. So the first thing is, where do we run commands? If we click on the Start button and type CMD and hit Enter, we get the command prompt. And this is where we type commands. There are a few commands that are worth knowing. One is dir, which shows what's in the current directory. If we look, the prompt is showing me which directory I'm in. So there's a users folder on my computer, and then within that, there's a folder called me. This is my home directory. Within that, there are folders that should look familiar: desktop, documents, downloads, and in fact, those are the same ones that you would see in the Windows Explorer. So if, for example, I go onto my desktop, I can change to the desktop folder here in the command prompt by typing cd for change directory desktop. And when I type dir to see what's in this directory, it shows me the same things that are over here. So this is just another way of interfacing with the same files and folders that you've already got. So this is where I would type a command. Now, where are these commands coming from? Let's take a look at a command line program that I wrote. Lots of command line programs are written by just random people who make it available free to the community online. And that's called open source software. Lots of open source software shows up on github.com. So let me look at this program that I wrote. It's called Lorem. And all it does is when you type a certain command, it gives you some lorem ipsum. If you've never seen that before, lorem ipsum looks like this. It's just basically some Latin, and you can use it as placeholder text if you're a graphic designer or a web designer or something. So in this case, typing lorem with a space and and typing the word paragraph followed by 4, 8 with spaces, what it's doing is it's going to return to me a single paragraph of lorem ipsum made up of 4 to 8 sentences. Now that's just how this program works. Depending on whatever other command line program you're using, it may have kind of a different way of calling the command. But here we've got in this README section on GitHub an example of how it looks. And because it's such a simple program, that's really all that's described here. Sometimes there's a lot of information about how to install the program or some other details. If you can find a releases tab on a GitHub webpage like this, then that's the best place to go for downloading the actual program that you want to run. The programs in this case are compressed, a .tar.gz, or you might be more familiar with a .zip file. There's also .7z, lots of different ways to turn a folder full of files into a single file, and that's what this is. But why are there so many files here? They're all version 1.0, but then some of them say Darwin, some say Linux, and some say Windows. So that's which operating system you're using. Darwin is Mac OS. And for each of those operating systems, there are different versions, and this is the architecture. So it depends on what kind of CPU you have in your computer. So Windows 386 would be probably for a really old computer. Windows ARM 64 would be something like the Raspberry Pi or something like that. And Windows AMD 64 is probably what your computer is. And I'm going to click on that to download that archive. I'm just going to put it in this Downloads Today folder and hit save, and it's already downloaded it. So if I click on that folder icon, I can see there's the file, and double clicking on it allows me to go right in. Now, if it's a format that your computer doesn't understand, for example, .7z is a 7-zip file, it's a fine archiving program, but you need to download it separately. If it's .zip or .tar.gz, it'll probably open just fine. So here we are. It contains 3 files. The README that we saw on the GitHub webpage, also a license file that has some licensing information, and then the actual binary or executable. Those are the terms that we would use for a command that we want to type from the command prompt, either a binary or an executable. And if it ends in .exe on Windows, that's an executable file. That's what they look like. So let's just click on this and hit copy. And then what I can do is just put it on the desktop. Maybe I'll make a folder for it called Lorem. And I'll go into that folder so you can see I'm on the desktop in this folder called Lorem, and then I'll just paste it there. So that's it. Now, this is not the best technique for installing this program, but I technically have installed it. I've taken it, copied it from the archive, and placed the executable file somewhere on my computer. Let's see how we would run it and then see if there's maybe a better place to put it. So here I am in the desktop. I will go further into that directory tree to the Lorem folder that I just created. And when I type dir, there's my lorem.exe file. Now let's go backward one step. So that would be cd ... That brings me backward one folder in the tree. So I'm in desktop now. And if I type lorem and hit enter, it just says that it doesn't know what I'm talking about. So basically, if I want to run a program, it either needs to be sitting in the same folder that it needs to either exist in the same folder that I'm sitting in here, or it needs to be in a location where Windows knows we keep executable command line programs. So that's why I said this isn't the best way to install it, because right now, the only way it's going to work is if I'm actually in the right folder. So if I type lorem in this folder, I can see that it actually does work. It's telling me I've got an error because I didn't use it in the way that the README said, but let's try that. If I do this, it gives me a nice long paragraph of lorem ipsum that I could copy and paste into some other program. So what's a better way to install this? Well, the reason why Windows allows us to use some commands, like, well, this isn't a great example, but dir, I can run this from anywhere. It's actually part of the operating system, so it's not a great example. But there are certain commands like clear, CLS, that will clear the screen, certain built-in programs, and then there are also all of these exe files around. How does Windows know where to look for them? So there's something called a path. And as soon as you start talking about command line programs and how to install them, you have to understand this path environment variable. And that is a list of folders that Windows will look in to see if it can find the command that you just typed. So I can type echo and then a %, capital path %, and hit enter. This is the list of folders separated by semicolons that Windows is going to look in order for the programs that I type. And if I type lorem, it's just not in any of those folders. So I have a couple of options. One is I can just make sure that I move that lorem.exe file into one of these folders that is in my path, or I can add the folder that the lorem file exists in to the path. So I've got two choices. Now it would be crazy if every time I installed a program, I added another directory to this, because it's a bit of a pain, but I am going to show you that way first. So we know where it is. It's on the desktop in the lorem folder. Let's see if we can add that to the path and get it to work. So the way that we do that in Windows is to click again the start menu and just type env. And there's an option here to edit the system environment variables. I'll click down here. Environment variables is what I'm looking for. And then the top half has variables that are just for me, and the bottom half has variables that are for everyone who uses the computer. So I would say it's the top one that I'm looking for. And hey, there's path. So that's the variable, and here is the list of directories. It's the same information that was over here in the command prompt. I can click edit, and I see the whole list here, and I can add one to it. So let me just click new, and I will type C:\users\me\desktop. Capitalization matters here, I think. And then it was called lorem. And that's it. If I hit OK, and I hit OK again, and OK again, I've changed the environment variables. Let's see if it works. Now it doesn't. And the reason is I need to exit from the command prompt and go back in. So let's see if this scheme has worked. Okay, it is working. It's telling me I'm not doing it right. Let me just say I want a word between 4 and 10 letters. There it is. So it is working even though I'm not in the Lorem folder. Like I said, it's not great to have to add a folder every time I install some program, but you can see there it is at the end. And it is, I can make this a really long list, but it's kind of annoying to maintain it. In fact, while I've had it on the screen there, I noticed that there was a folder in there that doesn't exist anymore. And so it can be kind of a pain to kind of always have to keep up on that. So instead, I've got a better idea. Let me make a folder in my root directory, which, by the way, it's not so easy to get to that home folder, or that root, as I said, the home folder, from the Windows Explorer. If you click on home, it actually just shows you your recent files. It doesn't show you what's actually in your home folder. Let's see if just typing open. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so Explorer? Okay, so no, that doesn't work either. So Explorer. Well, okay, so that does work. If you type Explorer with a space and a dot, that will actually open the folder. And you see here it's C, users, me, and these are all the folders in there. Desktop, documents, and lots of others. The same things that would show up if I type dir here. So what I can do is I can create a folder in here, knowing that now that I've started to use command line programs, I'm going to become a command line program addict. And I want a place to store them all. As I start downloading them, maybe creating them at some point, I want a folder that can exist in my path and be the place where I install all of my command line programs. So what I might do is make directory, mkdir, and I'll call it bin, short for binary. And if I change to bin, I can see by typing dir that there's nothing in there. But this is a good place to put my my Lorem file. So let's go back here, and I'm trying to keep this relatively simple and not go into a lot of commands that are in the command prompt. Let's type. Let's do it from here in the GUI. But if I go to desktop and back to Lorem, and there's my file, I can cut that. And maybe I can just go back here to the bin folder that I just made and paste it. Now, that took a lot of steps, and I can tell you there's a very simple command that would allow me to do that from the command line. So I'm not used to using the graphical interface for things like moving files around. I normally do it from the command prompt. But this isn't a command prompt tutorial, so I just wanted to drag and drop instead to get the job done. So now we've got a bin folder and we've got Lorem in there. Now, if I type, let me just go back to my home and type Lorem. It doesn't know where it is. Now, it is still in my path, the Lorem folder on my desktop, but the file isn't there anymore. So this is where, now we've got a path that is ever changing as I install more programs. But if I move them around, I'd have to update the path again. But now I'm in a good position because I've got a bin folder in my home folder, and that's where all of my executables will go. So let's go back again to edit the environment variables and do this the right way. So I'll click environment variables, and then I'll go down here on the top half and choose path and edit. I see the desktop Lorem here. I'm going to remove that one, and instead I'm going to make a new one that is c:\users\me\bin. And from now on, every time I open the prompt, as long as anytime I install some software into the bin folder, I should be able to use it from anywhere. And remember, I have to exit from the command prompt and then go back in for that new path to take effect. And right here from my home folder, I should be able to type Lorem, and it is working. So that is how we install a program and how we use it by just typing whatever the command is. I will tell you one other thing. In our lab at the university that I teach at, the students don't have privileges to change the environment variables using this program. So there is another way to do it. And the way we would do that is with this command called setx. And the way we type it is setx path, And then we would put a path in here. Now, if we just put the directory, the bin folder in here, then my path will only be the bin, which was not great because we had a long list of folders. We don't want to overwrite all of them with just the one folder here. So the way we start it is by doing %path, and that's all in quotes, and then a semicolon. That way it takes whatever path exists already and then adds one to it. So let me add some gibberish thing to the path. I'll just do c:\users\me\test. If I hit enter, that has changed my path. Ooh, okay, maybe I need to exit and reopen the command prompt. Let's see. At the end, we see users me test as the last one here. So I got an extra semicolon in there. I'm not sure why, but that worked. Now that works whether or not you have permission to use the env or set environment variables program. Let's go in here and see if it actually changed it in here. There it is at the bottom. So I can delete that because it's basically an alternative way of adding things to the path, but it's one that doesn't require that you have privileges to open that env or the set environment variables program. So this is the simplest example. It's just a single executable. What we will find is that programs that are more involved maybe have more than one executable, or maybe there are accompanying files that we need. So let me look at, I'll show you one more example, FFmpeg. I mentioned opening a folder full of 20,000 videos and changing their format. You can do that using FFmpeg. Now, let's look at how we download this. If I click download, it has this option to download the source code. Again, if you're a beginner, this is not the way you want to go. You want to find some executable files, and it shows here that you can download them by clicking the Windows icon, and there are two different sources here. So often what happens is the FFmpeg program itself has its own website, and then we have kind people who also create binaries for different operating systems. So since this is a little more complicated, it's kind of broken up that way. It's not like the program that I wrote where it's just one file and all of the different operating systems are in that one list. So this web page is actually just Windows versions of FFmpeg. So there's an essentials one and a full one. I'll just click full. And if I were to download that to the same place that I downloaded the other file, I can click on the folder once it's done. And there it is. This one is a .7z file. Now I can open that because I have installed the 7-zip file manager, but you might need to install that if you don't have it already. So again, there's a folder within the folder, and then in this case, there isn't just a single executable. There's a bin folder of its own that contains a few different executables, FFmpeg being the main one, and then these other two. And then there's a documentation folder, a presets folder. So how would we install this? Do we just dump all this in the bin folder? It's not exactly right. And, I could take what's in the bin folder and put it in my bin folder. So this is a little more complicated. I would say looking for some instructions about how to install would be a good idea. Or, for me, I think the other thing I might do is just copy this folder that contains everything I need. I would go into my home folder and paste it there. And then I would maybe rename this because it's kind of a long name to just FFmpeg. And that now, inside my home folder, I've got an FFmpeg folder and it contains all of the stuff here. So I think it's worth it just for this one program to update my path one last time. And I will add to the path this one new folder, which is c:\users\me\FFmpeg\bin, because there's a bin folder in here, and that's where the actual executables live. I'll hit OK, and OK, and OK. And the next time I open the command prompt, I should be able to just type the FFmpeg command. There it is. It's working. Well, I didn't type all the bits that I need, but it is doing something. This should get you started in downloading and running programs on Windows that are executed in the command prompt. The main thing that is a little complicated is understanding this path, and hopefully you understand that now. Once you download the program, you just want to make sure it's either in a folder that's in your path or that you add the folder where it lives to your path. And at that point, you should be able to just type the command. Okay, good luck.